Well, this is not a video that I take any pleasure in doing. But as we enter December, we should know what December means. And you have to be able to read the tea leaves, so to speak. And if you're anything like me, you can see where this is going. The logical conclusion, so to speak. And I have to be honest, December is going to be rough in America. It's going to be really, really rough for a lot of us. Not all of us, but the majority of us. It's going to be rough. Did you all ever see Keeping Up with the Kardashians? Did you watch that? There was an episode where Kim and Khloe got into a fight. Now these are sisters. Think about this, because this is going to explain what I'm going to say next. These are sisters. They've grown up together. For all intents and purposes, they love each other. They're all successful, highly successful women. And we know in American society, you have to be really stellar to be a successful woman in this society. The sexism, the exploitation is thick and deep in this society. And they got into a fight, physical. And it carried on into the bathroom. And they had to be separated by their other sisters. They said they had never seen them this angry. They said, "What is the matter with you?" And she was pointing her finger at her other sister. She said, "You're always taking her side." You listen to what I'm saying, because this is important. She said, "You're always taking her side." She said, "I'm not taking anyone's side. I saw you two fighting." And I said, "What the hell is going on?" Don't worry, fear not, it's everywhere. In Algeria, Africa, for those of you who are not good with geography, France is upset with Algeria. I said, oh my goodness, here we go. Lay it on thick. What is it this time? Apparently, Algeria has decided to print on their currency in English. You know, they use Arabic and French. Algerians speak fluent French and Arabic. And now they're putting English on their currency. And maybe possibly removing the French. So the French are very upset with Algerians. You don't believe me? They told me about two girls that were friends with each other. Both of them French. Born in France, in fact. Very close friends. The only thing they had in that was different was one had lived in Algeria and the other had not. Small detail, right? Apparently they got into a fight. People said they've never seen these two fight. And they got into a fight. They had to separate the two. So I'm dealing with problems on all fronts. I guess I'm supposed to settle that dispute. But I don't even know what it's about. Like, some people take things too far and take things as a slight that aren't slights. For instance, this currency thing. Let's think about it. They already speak French, right? Algerians. It's not like they're saying we're not going to teach French in the schools. They're taking it off of the currency. So what they're really saying is they want to incorporate English and not just have Arabic and French. They want to be trilingual. I think that's highly competitive to have a child that's trilingual instead of just being bilingual. Don't you think? It's an asset for Algeria. But the French look at it as they're losing something by the incorporation of something else. A lot of French citizens are upset with Algerians, and the Algerians are upset with the French. They say, you've been exploiting us for a long time. And we've just been going along with it, speaking in French about how dissatisfied we are with it. You haven't cared about our dissatisfaction when we've raised it in French. So now maybe we'll raise it in English. We know you don't give a fuck about Arabic. Oh, the Algerians said this. You don't know how that came back to me, but it came back to me. They said this. And I said, well, now both sides are overreacting. You know, that's how it is. One person to do something, the other person will react to it and overreact to what that person did. We saw it in Independence, Missouri, at the convenience store. Remember, the individual was upset at the cashier. And then the firefighter got upset with the individual who was berating the cashier. And then they went outside and continued the argument and got into a wrestling match. The firefighter was choking him to death. And the girlfriend had to shoot the firefighter. This is not a movie. This happened this month in Missouri. And I said, this is what's happening in Algeria and France. These two girls who were friends had to be separated. Both are French, but one lived in Algeria. Now, when I'm doing an investigation, I have to take into account all of those details. What did she do in Algeria? What was her perception of the country? Why did she come back to France and not stay in Algeria? We have to do deep analysis when we investigate things. People want a quick investigation. Hurry up the investigation already. Do you understand what an investigation? No, Americans really don't. An investigation has to be detailed and precise. There has to be no stone left unturned. You have to dot all your I's and cross all your T's. You have to put the dash or the line in the lower right portion of the cube to make it a cube, right? So we have to figure out all of these things before we can accuse either of these girls of being in the wrong. Of course, France is going to take the side of the girl who was pro-France. Algeria is going to take the side of the girl who was pro-Algeria. Neither one of them want to acknowledge that they're both French. And they don't know what the fight was about. So going back to Keeping Up with the Kardashians, they didn't know why they were fighting. They just saw them fighting. And she assumed that she was taking sides. But Kim walked off. You remember, she walked off. And she's all in black. Kim was mad and she was wearing all black. And she stomped off. She didn't stick around. And she was throwing something. Did you see? Kind of like Mar-a-Lago, it sounded like. Don't you think? Screaming at the table. Yeah. December is coming. Folks know it. Now, everybody got the memo. Oh yeah, they got the memo. Everybody must have got the memo. I saw the memo a long time ago. I guess nobody else saw the memo a long time ago. I was forgetful that I even saw the memo, and then I had to go back and say, oh yeah, I did see it. I said it. People didn't understand it. They're trying to act like I didn't say it, but I said it. I reviewed it. I said it. Oh yeah, it's still archived. You can go back and look at it. The games of December, right? The games of December. Now, do we make the games? Hell no. You make the games. I just watch them. See, that's the issue. Kim and her sister wanted to act as though somebody else made them upset. They made themselves upset. These two French girls, they made themselves upset. Nobody was around them, to my knowledge. The restaurant they went to said that they were acting salty inside the restaurant towards each other. So their server didn't do anything to them. They were already salty when they walked in. That's what their server said. The server talked to the owner and said they were arguing at the table. And the owner said he wanted to expel them. But he knew who they were. They were friends of the restaurant. Friends of his. They're good paying clients. He just said he thought they were having a bad day. But they're arguing. And then later they get into a fight. December. Why is it always the holidays? No, I know. The answer is it's stressful. The holidays are stressful. See, for people that have a lot and go to Tiffany's and Company and buy 16-karat diamond necklaces and new cars, we're not talking about you people. We're talking about everyone else, which is the other 99% of us. Holidays are stressful. People realize they have to buy presents. And everything has gone up, wouldn't you know? Inflation is at 11.1% in England. Right now, today, tonight, this morning. is in London. It's 11.1% inflation. Americans are complaining about inflation at 7%, 9% maybe in reality. England is at 11.1%. And if that's what they say, it's probably closer to 20. People are feeling the pinch, so to speak. I'm feeling it. Went to the store the other day. Falafel sandwich. I'm not eating any meat. I'm vegan. Falafel sandwich and french fries. I'm thinking, okay, $15. $28 for falafel and french fries. We know people can't afford that. Not even here in this country. This is unsustainable. We know it. And see, that's why people are acting out. They feel it. They know it's collapsing in. Capitalism has no solutions. I said this a long time ago. They have no solutions. They won't do what's necessary, which is safeguard their citizenry. You know, we should have canceled rent for all American citizens in 2020. All American citizens who were paying rent, their rent should have been canceled. Not a moratorium, a cancellation. Because you know what people did? They had to buy food. They had to take care of their dog and cat, their parents. Some people had to take care of their loved ones who were sick with the virus. Some people got the virus and couldn't work. And rent was going up. Now it's ballooned, it's skyrocketed. A 50% increase in rent in Miami year over year. Last year they were paying 50% less than they're paying this year. We know people can't afford this. No one is that stupid. Look, some of your leaders are really stupid. AKA the last lunatic you had in there. But nobody's that stupid. They know. So it's causing stress this holiday season. A lot of stress and anxiety. And you're going to see a lot of people in December completely lose it. It happens already anyway. I was looking back at 2020 or 2021. Christmas Eve, a woman stabbed her husband with a sword. This was 2 or a year ago. She killed her husband with the sword they kept at home. She said he had been abusing her for a while. She decided to get rid of him on Christmas so she could have a new Christmas time lover. They asked her who the new lover was going to be. She said she hadn't determined or found one yet. She just wanted to get rid of the competition. This is not a QVC movie. This really happened in America a year ago or 2 years ago. So people are going to snap this holiday. Inflation is about to snap a lot of Americans. They're already crazy. So it's not much left. And they know this is the last month. Last month of the year and maybe the last month of the Republic. The way it's looking. And people want to blame the government. They still don't want to take accountability with 1 month left to go. Can you believe it? Americans are still bullshitting. You cannot say we the people, Americans, and then say the government. If you the people are the government, then you're the government. So you're blaming yourself without saying so. You're not taking accountability and responsibility. We just had an election. You decided to put the Republicans in control of the House. Okay. They're going to have a series of investigations, none of which they've announced will have anything to do with inflation. They told you they were going to solve inflation. Vote for them. They're going to solve inflation. Since they won the House, I haven't heard any plan about inflation. So let me propose one. There needs to be another moratorium on rent. Starting in December. Seriously, there needs to be another moratorium. And we need to go back and pay people from the lockdown of April of 2020 to December of 2020. We need to pay them for their rent. Pay them back. See, that was dirty. And see, this is why I didn't like Trump. How are you going to ask people to work during a global pandemic when everything was locked down? Remember, he locked down the country. And we're going to talk about lockdowns in a moment. He locked down the country. He says, oh, Fauci, Dr. Briggs, it was ultimately his final decision. He was the president. He chose to lock down the country. I know conservatives love to blame liberals for something the president did. He's the leader of the country. He did it. Now he said 15 days to slow the spread. They knew that this was not going to take 15 days. There have been reports that said they knew that it was going to take 18 years. Oh, it's out there for those who want to really read things that aren't conspiracies. Because that report came from the United States military. I don't think they're in the business of spreading conspiracy theories. The Defense Department said this would take 18 years. And they didn't talk specifically about the virus or the symptoms. They said the recovery. Because they knew about the supply lines. They knew that they were going to be backed up, depleted, shut down. Because other countries were shutting down that we were getting things from. A large supplier of most of our goods was China. Now, why did I say was China? Why am I speaking in the past tense? Well, one, we elected a lunatic who was not keen on negotiation, to say the least. Now, I'm going to ask you a question and then we'll move on from there. If somebody is giving you a lot of things, is it common sense to go around and insult them when they're giving you things? Who does that? Who gives you things and then you, as you receive them, don't thank the person for giving you something. You insult them for giving you something. If you said Americans, you guessed correctly. Oh, it was insulting how he behaved. Now let's get to the lockdown part, because this is important. You're going to want to hear this part. Our adversary, our competitive nemesis, China, they're locking down again. And you know, they were the first in 2020 to lock down. Before we did it, they did it. And China has kept up this zero COVID policy since the beginning. They want 0 cases of COVID in their country. Now, I'm respectful. So with all due respect to the Chinese Republic, you know, they're a republic too. The People's Republic of China. See, we have to be respectful. We want people to respect our republic, but then we don't want to respect other people's republics. Going back to Kim Kardashian fighting her sister. Maybe she wasn't being respectful. And that's what the fight was about. Going back to the 2 French girls. Maybe one wasn't being respectful to the other. See, even in crisis, we cannot lose the ability to be respectful to one another. Americans, you had a horrible leader. They said he was very disrespectful. I agree. I had to live under that son of a bitch. I concur 100%. Very disrespectful. So, they're locking down again. Our competitive nemesis. And they were the first to do it in 2020. And we sort of kind of said we're not going to do what China did. We said that in 2020. We're not going to lock down. We're going to stay open. And Americans tried to stay open. They really did. Until they were forced to close. See, people talk about the lockdown, but you're being disingenuous, Americans. What was happening before the lockdown? What was happening that made Americans decide to lock down? What was the behavior like? Anybody care to guess and remember? It was pretty abhorrent. It was pretty bad. Ahmaud Arbery, to begin with, didn't you go outside in a pickup truck, Americans? See, people have amnesia, and they need to be reminded again. Because this is serious. You're going to start to see it in December, and then you'll say, at least they told us. You had 3 men drunk get in a pickup truck and chase down a young African-American man in Brunswick, Georgia. And this is in the middle of the daytime. The sun is still up. High noon. And they just shot him down. Using racial epithets. And then you had Derek Chauvin with a knee on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 22 seconds. They ran up in Breonna Taylor's crib, right? Brett Hankerson was shooting all through the apartment with the blinds drawn. He couldn't even see what he was shooting at. He was just shooting. Like a crazed lunatic. See, Some people were sick before the virus. They got sicker. One of you bastards, I won't hold it against you. You said something not so nice. Typical. I mean, I don't expect niceness or kindness from these type of people. But they said, you're crazy. I kind of laughed. A crazy person calling another crazy person crazy. See, they think they're sane. Getting in pickup trucks and in broad daylight shooting down people. Now, ask yourself, do I go around with all the shit that I have, killing people in broad daylight? No, I don't. Okay. So that was what was happening. And then people want to say, oh, well, they locked down the country and things got worse. That's relative, really. I mean, you had almost started a race war in this country. He was this close, the lunatic from Mar-a-Lago, to starting it. And I know a lot of the Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, 3%ers, Boogaloo Boys, all of those people are longing for another civil war. The second American Civil War, they say. They're ready. They have their guns. They have their ammunition. They have bombs and explosives. They're ready to start the war. See, that's what I'm talking about. Kim Kardashian fighting her sister. The two French girls who were friends. You have to ask yourself, does it make any sense to allow such trivial nonsense to occur? Because people can't sit still and behave themselves. That's what you have to ask yourself. Does it make sense to allow that to occur? Because there's such ignorance in the general society. No, it doesn't make sense. So good leaders determine that they have to make choices. Difficult choices, but necessary. People are saying the Chinese people are protesting. They don't like the restriction. Nobody likes restrictions, okay? I don't like restrictions either. We have to get up and go to work. Biggest restriction in the world. Work to make other people who don't like people wealthy. I mean, who's a fan of that? Less than 0.01%. Probably all of us are not fans of that. But we have to do what we have to do, right? So when they say people are protesting in China and they're locking down again, you Americans automatically are going to say the Chinese don't know what they're doing. I know you. And that's what you said in 2020. That they didn't know what they were doing. And by all data and metric counts that you can look at, they actually did know what they were doing, and we didn't know what we were doing. But I know we don't look at science, and we don't like numbers and data and metrics. So those things are foreign to Americans. But to summarize, they were right and we were wrong. Now, we did have a lunatic as a leader. We are spared of that circumstance this time. But we have another circumstance this time around. hesitancy and unwillingness. Hesitancy is new, but the unwillingness part, we had that in 2020. People were unwilling to isolate, unwilling to socially distance, unwilling to wear a mask. Now, when you're unwilling to do something that you know is necessary, it doesn't make it any less necessary. You know what I mean? You really have to think about these things. When you're unwilling to do things, and there are plenty of things I'm unwilling to do, but if they're necessary for me to do it, I will do it. And you have to look at President Xi in China and look and say, even if you don't like the individual, the leadership style, on all accounts, he does what's necessary. It's not going to always be popular what's necessary. See, Americans, this is another problem we have. Popularity means that we do something or we don't. No. If you're with 100 people on a trip and you get to a beautiful cliff and 99 of them say, hey, we should jump off the cliff, are you going to do it just because the majority or it's popular? If I'm the only person in the group that thinks it's a crazy idea, I'm going to say, may I have your attention, please? This is a cliff you're on. And if you jump off, you might not survive. Do you still wish to do it? Maybe reason will dissuade stupidity. It's possible. Or they could say, no, we're still going to do it and all jump off. You didn't have to jump off with them. You get my drift? So this whole notion of popularity is not a good way to lead by what people want to do. And these types of matters where it's out of your control, and it really is out of everyone's control, a virus. Nobody can control a virus and say, hey, this person don't get sick, this person gets sick, this person don't get sick. No. It's out of your control. So when something is out of your control, you have to do what's necessary. You have to do what's necessary. China has determined it's necessary to lock down again. Now, what we should be asking the question, and not fanning the flames of the protest because we want to get back at our nemesis, what we should be asking is, why do they think it's necessary? Because we didn't ask that question the first time. And that got us into a lot of trouble. So it's a reasonable assumption to ask it this time, so we may not make the same mistake again. So that's another investigation. The lockdown in China. So I got what's happening in France, China. We know about Russia and Ukraine. But even there, we don't know what happened in Poland. You heard about the 2 rockets that hit Poland. Now they say they were made in Russia. Get this, they were made in Russia. But Poland can't even determine where they were fired from. That's interesting because there's a lot of satellites in the sky. And usually they use satellite trajectory to determine where these rockets came from. Now Russia says they didn't do it. And Ukraine says they did it. Russia did it, not them. But neither side has produced evidence to make any type of determination as to who did what. So I said, here we go again, speculating. Accusing each other of something that we don't know who did it. If Poland doesn't even know, how does Ukraine or Russia know? It's bullshit. Neither one knows. And both of them could have possibly done it for different reasons. You can't rule that out of the equation either. Anyway, that's another investigation. You see where I'm going? December is all about investigation. With some of these things, we've already concluded the investigation. Let's talk about the investigation in America. Because that one is concluded. Now, what do you say? What's the investigation in America, you say? What do we think January 6th was, Americans? This is very important. What do we think January 6th was? Some people have said it's a coup. There was a plot to overthrow the government. A coup? Now that's interesting. Why would our own fellow citizens try to overthrow their government? What's up with that? And if they tried to overthrow our government, what government were they going to replace it with? You know, in a coup, you overthrow one and you replace it with something else. It wasn't going to be something that we elected, right? Because we had an election and that outcome was determined. So they were going to overthrow the government and replace it with something that we, the people, had not even rendered an opinion about. Nobody talks about that. That's important in this investigation. Because that doesn't sound like an individual to me. Ooh, now it gets deep. That doesn't sound like that would be an individual that they would replace it with. Because an individual that you overthrow in America, that individual would be hot. They'd be too hot. They couldn't even show their face. The people wouldn't accept them. So it doesn't sound like they were planning to replace it with an individual. So what were they planning to replace it with? Perhaps an entity. An entity. Something that we don't know about. That they're hiding from us. Now, if they had good intentions, why would they hide something from us? What this entity that they wanted to replace our government with was. You know, I feel that Trump, and this is a conspiracy theory, but I feel that Trump was just the face that they were using. I mean, look at this guy. Dinners with Nazis. And then says, I don't know who I had dinner with. Is anybody that dumb? They talk about Biden being senile. You don't know who's coming to your door for dinner? And you let me in for dinner? No. It doesn't pass the smell test, as they used to say back in the day. You know, I know the entity. And I go back and forth. Should I name it? Should I not? And there's a reason I go back and forth. Because they know a lot of shit too. And see, it would kind of be like the France situation and the Kim Kardashian situation. Going back to the beginning. These are sisters and friends. Those two women in France, I didn't tell you this, they grew up together. They were sisters. When the owner found that out of this restaurant, he didn't even know that they were sisters. He thought they were best friends. And they were best friends. They've been best friends forever. They're sisters. People who were their classmates said they were inseparable all throughout different schools. Went to the same uni. It couldn't have been about a man. I know what somebody said. It's about a dude. These two don't give a fuck about fucking. They're both pretty open and out there about that shit. That's not going to break up their friendship. Believe you me, I know. And that's why I'm sort of kind of torn about this entity. I know the entity knows me. And while we're nemesis, like China and the United States are nemesis, is it really smart to start dropping bombs on your nemesis? And they drop bombs on you. Nobody wins. Everybody loses. There's no victory or defeat of anyone. Because everybody's defeated. You know, it hasn't been released yet to the web. Surrender, withdraw, and defeated. Did anybody watch Matrix Reloaded? You remember when he went to meet the Oracle? He thought it was going to be a good meeting, right? They were going to get in there and strategize, and there was going to be a plan. And the Oracle, the second time he saw her in Reloaded, she had lost weight, right? She was older in both, but she had gotten older. She had aged, right? And she was just sitting there at the table, looking stoic and seldom, smoking the cigar. He's like thinking, oh, this time I'm going to get cookies, right? How's it going? Tell me the bad news, he says. Like it's going to be some good news. And the Oracle said, you might as well have a seat. There isn't any good news this time. Isn't that what she said? He's like, what are you talking about? There's got to be good news. No. Not this time. There's no good news this time, America. Not for December. Do I have to do an investigation of Nazis in Mar-a-Lago? Did you see the dude in SeaTac during the Nazi salute? He's in Bogie. There was a dude during Halloween that came in a full Nazi uniform in New York City, a bar, and said, what? It's Halloween. This is funny to me. They had to shoo him out of New York City. No. It's all bad news this time. You know, when you go to the doctor's office and they tell you it's cancer, they have to ease into it. How they tell you. They don't come out and tell you right away. They have to ease into it. And then the hardest part is not telling you it's cancer. That's the easiest part of what they have to say. The next part is the really difficult part. They have to tell you it's terminal. That is no recovery. When you've been unwilling to do something that's necessary for so long, things finally catch up to you. I don't know, people don't understand that, but it's true. When you've been unwilling to do something that's necessary for so long, eventually it's going to catch up with you. It's necessary to do it. So you can be unwilling to do something that's necessary. That's Americans. They're stubborn, hard-headed. They're going to do it their way, right? Yeah, I know. I know. Believe you me, I know. What do you all think that lockdown in China is about? Anybody want to guess? They say the cases are going up. They have more cases than at any time ever before. 30,000 in a day. And if they're saying 30,000, it's probably like 100,000. Because you know they never are accurate. No government ever is. We can't just blame one for being a liar when all of them lie. So they're undercounting. Why is this thing back again? This virus. Anybody want to guess? Because I know. Some of you all know too. But I won't say it. It's December. I want everyone to have a good holiday. Now, here's how I think we can do that. Stay the fuck out of each other's way. I'm gonna be blunt and frank. Stay the fuck out of each other's way. And we might get through having a nice holiday. You see, Kim and her sister walked into each other's space. They were already angry. Why did they need to walk towards each other? Please socially distance. You can stay 20 feet away from me now. Before it was 6. I'm changing it. It's 20. I thought about making it 66 feet away. But it's 20 because I want to see you. So stay 20 feet away, socially distant. I would recommend not speaking to each other because you don't know how to talk to one another. That's part of the problem. People don't even know how to talk to people. I look at some of these people and I'm like, who the hell do they think they're talking to? Seriously, you used to have to be respectful. But that's gone out the window too. So don't speak. Because it's nothing that we want to hear. I said if they had to shut up in the restaurant. Oh, you know I went there. I said if they had to shut up in the restaurant. Or the server had told those two girls to shut up. Then they might not have needed to be separated later on. You know, sometimes you have to lay down your foot. There were other people in the restaurant, they told me. And the other people had to get up and walk out because they were so rude to one another. Oh yeah, they kept elaborating on the story. I don't even want to go. What am I supposed to say? First off, not what am I supposed to say, what am I supposed to wear? Algeria, are you giving me anything to get over there? France, are you giving me anything to get over there? See, that's rude too. You ask someone to solve an issue or a problem for you, and then you're disrespectful to the individual that solves your problem. Who do you think that sounds like? France, Algeria, America, Russia, Ukraine, China? Mexico, very charming and respectful. New Zealand, very charming and respectful. Canada, very charming and respectful. Most of China, very charming and respectful. But you cannot blame all of us for some of us. That's what I would say to the Chinese. You cannot blame all of us for some of us. Now you take that as you will. Because some of us are really nice. Some of us tried to break up that fight like in Keeping Up with the Kardashians. We weren't taking any sides. We were just trying to separate the two. They did that out to the two French girls too. They just separated. They weren't taking sides. They said they had to pull them off of each other. Think about that. Nobody has ever seen them say a mean thing to each other. And they said they had to pull them off of each other. They were pulling each other's hair, trying to gouge each other's eyes out. Now, I really don't want to be bothered with that. I told Algeria, I'll pass. I told France, I'll pass. I'm not going to be bothered with that bullshit. They shouldn't have pulled them off of each other. Let me tell you what they should have did. They should have let them do what they wanted to do to each other. Same with the Kardashians. They shouldn't have intervened. Oh, let them go into the bathroom and go at it with each other. I'm not going to intervene in this shit in December. I'm not going to say anything as long as other people don't say anything. If other people want to escalate, I'm going to escalate. Here's how we're going to play December. Kids, gather around. Here's how we're going to play the game in December. All that hate you're sending towards us, we're going to put it on a platter and we're going to return it to sender. Straight up, I saw it. And I liked it. He said, if they retaliate, we're going to retaliate. And we're going to retaliate back hard and fast and good. Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Y'all remember what he was talking about, right? The Americans. You don't want to play with the Americans. Ooh. At the end of the day, we need to get the things we need to get and be on our way. We're not going to make a scene as we're getting the things we need to get. We're going to do it in an orderly fashion. We're going to get the things we need to get, and then we're going to leave. Then we're going to say bye-bye. And if anybody tries to stop us now, hey, we went in an orderly fashion. You're the one that got in the way and tried to stop us. I tell people all the time, I'm nice. Really, I am. But people don't like nice people. They don't. And I'd rather be feared than loved. Any day of the week. Your love can come and go, but your fear, I'm telling you, that remains forever. Fuck love. Some people need fear. Because it makes them stand up and salute upright. When they know what you're capable of doing. And it ain't just me. Oh, no. Remember Abraham Lincoln? Anybody? Greatest president in American history, maybe. I would say Lincoln, Obama, Kennedy. People hated Abraham Lincoln. They hated him with a passion. They tried to kill that man so many times. The people guarding him lost count. He was not popular as president of this country. No kidding. No shit, Sherlock. I know you rewrote all of the stories to make it sound pleasant and sweet. You know, they say Trump is a liar. But Americans, you like liars because you are liars. Lincoln did what was necessary. He said, a house divided cannot stand. And boy, our house is divided. Did you hear Senator Mitch McConnell, the minority leader of the Senate? He said, this election has proven that for the third most consecutive election, Americans have determined that they are a divided nation. I said, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. We kind of don't fuck with Nazis. Ooh. And the Nazis don't fuck with anybody else. Ooh. So yeah, we're going to be kind of divided. We're going to be real divided. Now, I like Lincoln. Not because of the Civil War bullshit. No. Long before that, I liked Lincoln. See, you got to be able to tell the people that got it from the jump. Lincoln was in the House before he became president. He was a congressman. And Lincoln didn't go along with bullshit in America. All the Spanish-American War. They tried to run this country into Mexico. Do you know why they didn't like Mexico? Hey, Americans, do you know why you didn't like Mexico? And you still don't? I know. Do you? They don't teach the kids this. It's a shame. A lot of things they don't teach the kids. It's a shame. Lincoln didn't like that America was trying to get into Mexico and meddle in Mexican affairs. You see, Mexico abolished slavery. And the Americans wanted to bring slavery into Mexico. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Lincoln stood up in the House when they came with some trumped up bullshit about a bullet firing at an American from Mexico. He said, I want to do a congressional investigation of this shit. See, he knew it was bullshit. They were like, Lincoln, why don't you shut up? Sit down. You're ruining this for us. Yeah. Real old ancient stories about this empire. Yeah. The good stuff. I like Lincoln from the beginning. He did what was necessary. And I'll do what's necessary. We'll all do what's necessary. I said stay 20 feet away. I can't tell you where to come and where not to come. It's a free country. And they haven't locked it down just yet. But we really should examine why China is locking down. Because we said they were wrong the last time, and they were kind of right. Maybe they'll be right this time too. And we'll have to lock down again. I think it's necessary. If you ask me, you shouldn't have to wait on the inevitable to do what you know is necessary. That's the hesitancy. This president doesn't want to lock down again because he knows the American people will be opposed to it. But if it's necessary to do it, then you have to do it. President Xi in China knows the people don't like locking down 35 million citizens in a city. He knows this. He doesn't want to do it, but it's necessary to do it. What you want to do and what you like doing has no relevance when something is necessary. In my opinion, it's necessary to lock down the United States of America. we shall lock down in December this country. It is necessary to do so. You know, they'll do it, but it'll be too late. That's always the American way. When they see what's already happened. Look at what happened to George Floyd. They started to see the protests, and then they wanted to send in the National Guard. They wanted to send in the riot police. But did they want to do what was necessary after the aftermath of George Floyd? Did they want to do what was necessary? Think about that. Prior to Rush Limbaugh passing away, a conservative icon, I would say the voice of conservatism in America for 30 plus years. Prior to his passing, he did an interview with Charlemagne the God. Somebody very popular in the African American community. He did an interview. And he asked Charlemagne the God, what can we do about this? Because we don't want to see this again. He sounded like he was being genuine. But Charlemagne was pushing back and saying, Rush, you know what you need to do, and you haven't done it. So it's a little disingenuous to ask a question that you know the answer to, but you refuse to do it because you don't want to do it. That gets infuriating to a lot of people. People don't understand that that's infuriating. It's trifling. To me, it's trifling. Don't you dare ask me a question you already know the answer to, but you refuse to do it. Don't do that. That's a waste of my time. And for other people, they might not think it's a waste of their time, but they find it trifling. It very much upsets them. So if you know you're going to bullshit, don't bullshit on my time. They didn't want to fix qualified immunity. And they know why they have qualified immunity. So if you didn't want to fix the problem that everybody wanted you to fix, why are you going to bullshit and ask about what the problem is? See, they did this in 2020. Not wanting to do what was necessary. Because it wasn't popular with certain communities. Why did I say I like Kennedy? When Kennedy was looking at what was happening in the 1950s, late 1950s, and now the photo has emerged of Jerry Jones. Have you seen the photo? 1957. Little Rock 9. They're integrating the school. Young white boys are chanting 2, 4, 6, 8, we will never integrate. And saying, go back to the jungle, inward. Go back to Africa, inward. I can't even say what they were saying now. They couldn't even play the audio tapes of it on television without bleeping it out nowadays. That's how bad it was. In 1957 America. Jerry Jones was there. He heard it all. Ask him. Ask the master bullshitter. I want to be first in line for diversity. They want to be first. Everybody's like, yeah, go first, America. America first. Adios and good riddance. That's what they're saying for December. Oh, yes, they are. People are sick, and you know who they're blaming? Just like we blame other people, other things, they blame us too. They said, you people made our people sick. They weren't sick until they saw you. And now they're sick. Everybody's saying that in every country. They say the Americans made our people sick. We hate them. You don't have a friend, Babylon. America, you don't have a friend. This is the Oracle speaking. Remember, she was sitting there with a cigar. Boy, she was sad when she broke the news. You can't really see me. You don't know if I'm sad or not. But know that it gives me no pleasure to say this. But it's December. And we all know what's going to happen in December. We know. If you stay away from each other and you mind your own fucking business, if we can get through December with you doing such a thing, this is an operative word. We might, keyword might, not have to have a hard lockdown, but we're definitely going to have some type of lockdown. Come on, Americans, you're like Kim Kardashian. You walked towards each other when you knew you were problematic and heated. It was like a heat-seeking ballistic missile, like you went towards each other. You could have avoided each other. Those French girls, they went into the restaurant together and started yelling and arguing at the table. One customer said, who was seated sort of close by them, everybody started moving away from them when they started hearing them. But one customer stayed a little bit close by them, and she said she looked at them. And they both looked at her at some point, she said. And she remembers both of them rolling their eyes at her and going back to arguing amongst themselves. Like she was the problem for looking at them behaving like savages. Hello, isn't that Americans? They are like, oh, judgmental are you? No, you're savages. I'm just looking at it. Everybody's looking at it. If there's an accident on the road, you look back and you see it. I don't recommend rubbernecking and turning your neck all the way around, but you want to see it. Can you blame anybody for saying you made their people sick, now looking at you as sick as you are, fighting each other? Can you blame anybody for taking some joy in that? I can't. I can't blame anyone for that. I can't at all. No, I can't. So we're going to stay away from each other. Because you have to talk like you're talking to juvenile delinquents. Which 7 out of 10 Americans are juvenile delinquents. You're bullies. Americans, you're bullies. You run a bully nation. You bully each other. You bully others. You bully everyone. You're bullies. And then you wonder why your children bully. Because they see you, the parents, adults, bullying. So you bullies, listen up. You're going to stay away from each other. You're not going to talk to each other. Don't even look at each other. Definitely don't get in each other's spaces. I know if one of you try that shit in December, oh, I'm telling you. I want this video to stay up for chronological and historical sake. But I'm telling you, folks talk about meeting the Savior, their Lord and Savior. I'm going to send you a one-way ticket, or you're going to either send me a one-way ticket. I'm not going to say a damn thing. I'm going to be like Kim. She didn't say a damn word. She just walked towards the individual and started. Those two French girls, they worked each other up in the restaurant. About 30 minutes later, they were on top of each other going at it. I'm not going to say a damn thing. I don't talk. The fuck I got to say to you? What's that song? I'm a savage, classic, bougie, nasty. Yeah, I'm a savage. I live in a savage nation amongst savages. You're a savage too. They say, you're crazy. You would be crazy too if you had to deal with you every day. Everybody that says I'm crazy is crazy too. Don't judge. Just accept. It's pathetic. Really it is. But it's necessary. I'm only stating things that are necessary. Folks will say, oh, it's harsh, the restrictions. Really? Are the restrictions harsh, or your conduct is that harsh? See, again, people want to blame something external for an internal issue. You wouldn't have restrictions if you knew how to behave yourself. Even the Chinese people see other Chinese people misbehaving, and they say, please do something about it. You think the president is really locking down because he hates his own people? Please, spare me. I know how honorable Xi is. He loves Chinese people. But in a country of 2 billion people, you're going to have problematic people. And you need to do what's necessary to solve a problem. We're talking about doing what's necessary, not what's convenient, not what will appease the popularity of the people, what's necessary. Didn't they run up into the Capitol building on January 6th? Americans attacked their own nation's Capitol building? See, they didn't do what was necessary to those people. And let me tell you something. They feel emboldened now. They feel emboldened. Because there were no ramifications for what they did. What was necessary to do? To a lot of them. Well, you look at what other leaders do when people try to do that. You try to run up in the Kremlin on Putin and his ministers. You think you're going to post it on TikTok? It might go up. But the next night, you're going to go up too. I'm going to have you in front of a room. And I'll leave it at that. No, we didn't do what was necessary. A lot of those people should have been taken care of. They should have been taken care of. And that's a fact. You know, when they tried to do that before in this country, they saw the gallows. They saw the gallows. Lincoln did what was necessary. They tried to do that. Run up on the Union bases. They did what was necessary. People nowadays don't want to do what's necessary. Very few. That comes with consequences too. When we didn't lock down, it wasn't like it didn't come with no consequences. And understand that if we don't lock down, there will be consequences. It's not like there's a perfect or a good choice or a good outcome in any of it. People want to argue against something, but then don't want to argue in favor of the alternative. They just want to tell you that that is bad, as though the alternative is not. See, that's disingenuous. The argument, the premise of it. Locking down is bad. Well, not locking down is just as bad. Maybe worse. You want to have ethnic wars in your country? You want to have religious wars in your country? You want to have dictators measuring their penis sizes in your country to see who should be king of your country? See, people don't want to think about that. They just want to think about the restrictions. Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, there's a reason why. You know, this got told to me a long time ago. Rules. R-U-L-E-S. Rules. Plural. Things to abide by. Rules. Now, a lot of you know that I'm anti-authority. I don't like rules. Personally. But somebody that was writing the rules said, you know why there is rules, right? Because if there were no rules, people would do it. And then say, well, there's nothing saying that I cannot do it. So a rule is there or a restriction is there because someone did it in the first place. And it had to be discussed and consensus had to be made that it's not allowed. That's why there's rules. Because somebody did it. So nobody likes restrictions or rules. But the only people really to blame when you have restrictions are the people. I mean, look at the citizenry in America. Isn't it complete anarchy and chaos at this point? So that's how you get dictators, because they say, I can solve this issue. We must return to the Bible. You get that type of bullshit. And a lot of people will eat that shit up. Yeah, that'll solve our problem. We just to create Christian schools. We all need to be Christians. Except for what about the people who just don't want to be Christian? I mean, I'm one of them. I don't want to be Christian. I have a gazillion reasons why. First and foremost, I don't like the Christians. What about those people? Oh, well, they get persecuted because you don't want to be a Christian. And then it gets a little nitpicky too, because there's a whole lot of denominations of Christianity, right? Then you have to be a particular type of Christian. If you're this type of Christian, you're still disliked. If you're that type of Christian, you're still disliked. You have to be this type of Christian to be liked. Remember the story they told you about fleeing England due to religious persecution? Remember that story? They told you a long time ago. Some of you are starting to shake your head and say, yeah. What's your point about this one? Think about it. Fleeing religious persecution. Now that's one side of the story, right? You're fleeing religious persecution, but they never tell you what the persecution was, do they? I never heard this in school. They just said they were fleeing religious persecution and they came over here. This is what they told the indigenous people too, the First Nation. We're fleeing the persecution of the monarchy. People looked at the monarchy and said, yeah, the monarchy is pretty bad. They have some strict regulations and rules over there. Strict decorum. Lots of rules and restrictions and laws. So it sounded good on the surface. But remember, Americans are liars. And the First Nation people, the ancients said, never believe. They speak with forked tongue, right? Now the young ancients, they should have listened to the elders. Because they weren't lying. They knew something about the Americans. It's December. It's our final month together, America. We're all going to say bon voyage together. Let's try to get through these last few days in a jolly good spirit, right? Let's try to do that. They were fleeing persecution. So the story goes. What type of persecution? The indigenous should have done an investigation. We're going to go and take your ships to England and verify your story, like they verify users on Twitter. Hey, I'm punching a couple of times. They should have verified their story. If I had been there, and there were some owls there, and we still remember what you did to them, oh, I never forget. We never forget anything. But I would have verified. I would say, can we borrow your ships and sail to England? They knew how to sail, believe you me. Better than the Pilgrims. They should have taken their ships and sailed to England and asked the monarchy, what is this about persecution of these people? They seem like nice people. Why do you want to persecute them? And then the monarchy would have given over the documents. They would have told the indigenous. See, the Pilgrims told the indigenous people that the monarchy was savage. So if you tell somebody that they're savage and they're going to kill you if you go over there, they're more likely to believe it. But the indigenous should have investigated for themselves. They should have gone. Because the monarchy would have been happy to give you the paperwork. All of the many documents they had on the lovely and gracious pilgrims. The rap sheets, as they call them nowadays, or the criminal records, they were long and thick and steep. Thieves, rapists, child murderers, racists, sexists. Oh, boy, were they problems in England. They were fleeing religious persecution. No, they were doing the persecution. And they got kicked the fuck out. Or they were going to lose their life if they didn't leave. That's, I think, the real story, right, Americans? That's the real story. Oh, it's December. Not yet. A few more days. Who's going to be keeping up with the Kardashians or the Babylonians? Everybody. Friends said they had to separate the two girls. China, they're having to pull people off of each other. They're piled up on top of each other fighting. Stay 20 feet away. Don't say anything. Don't look. If you notice, I never look at any of you. I don't want to see you. It's not like I'm Medusa and I'll turn you to stone. I just don't want to see you. I don't have anything to say to you. I'm unofficially, officially an American. It's the worst card you can draw in the deck this December. But it's the best card you can draw if you're everybody else. Oh, yes. Everybody said the American card got drawn first. For those of you who know what I'm about to say next, you listen to me. If they come, you do whatever you need to do to make sure they wish they had never come and bothered you. You give them absolute hell. Signed and authored by me. Because that's exactly what I'm going to give them. Hell. If you even so much as glance at me, it's hell. Don't get near me, it's hell. Don't say anything to me, it's hell. And if you get in my space, I'm going like Kim Kardashian. I'm going like those two French girls who were sisters. It's fucking December. Don't you fucking mess with us. These last few days, let us enjoy this agony, turmoil, grief, misery, alone. I don't want to see you. I mean it. And the rest of you, you mean it too. You come into the cities. He was lucky he was at CTAC. You come into the cities. You listen to me, you Nazis. This is for you. You come into the cities. We're ready for you. I'm personally ready for you. I can't stand the sight of you. It's on sight. It's on sight. You're fucking disgusting.